What is up, guys and girls? Hurricane Liz here, back for another question and answer video. And this time around, we got a lot of fantastic questions. I am super fired up for this video. I hope you're fired up. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so the first question, and it's not really a question, but it's just a comment by Also Scrumptious and also one other person that I'm going to talk about here in a second. But this is related to the German countdown that we went through and looked at the hottest ideas from the Germany market. That's in case you are wanting to go into Germany. And the biggest problem, as you'll see, there is going to be a theme with some of these questions. But the biggest problem in the German market is when someone decides to jump into the German market without having a very good translator. Things can quickly be mixed up and a lot of words are lost in translation, which in turn make your books look completely ridiculous and in some cases insult the audience. Don't get put in this position and make sure that you hire a translator that knows what they're talking about, not only in German, but also in English, because a lot of things, as I said before, they just don't go in each of the markets. So Also Scrumptious and this guy, Mark Soltau, both are native German speakers and they also speak English fluently, so they both can help any one of you do this. So again, do not hesitate to contact them if you are going heavily into the German market. You don't want to get things lost in translation. And I'll give you an example right here with the next question and or comment. All right, and this comment is from Dan over in Texas. Dan says a while back he worked for a software company and they wanted the application translated into German, so they found someone in Texas to translate this application. Once they translated it, sent it to Germany to sell. After a couple weeks, they got a call from the German distributor that said, who in the heck translated this? And the translator, turns out, used the wrong word for cut. Instead of using the proper word for cut, they used the proper word for the term castrate. It had the same meaning, but it was a very different use. And as a result, you can see Dan's company potentially looked really ridiculous. And or imagine if they had actually gone out into the German market, they would have been the laughingstock of Germany, and Germany would have been rather insulted. So again, do not skimp on the price for translation, as you can really get yourself in a heck of a lot of trouble. Okay, and the next question comes from Julie, and Julie says, I noticed in one of the books that you showed on your channel, it showed the words new edition. Can you publish an updated version of a book, calling it a new edition, and not lose your BSR and reviews? Julie is referring to this book right here. So if we take a peek right here, you'll notice that on the cover of this book, it's pretty standard, right? It looks like the same old book, the book that I bought way back when, and there's nothing right here by the unicorn's hair. But if we actually take a peek inside the book, and we'll notice that all of a sudden this new edition is put on here. Now, a couple different things could have happened. Yes, you can change the inside of the book, and as a result of changing the inside of a book or the cover of a book, which looks like that could be the case here, it will not lose its BSR, it will not lose its reviews. It just is an updated version and it will still show the original date that you published this. And a lot of people do this when they run their book through pay-per-click and they notice that they're not getting a tremendous amount of CTR, which means click-through rate, which is a way of being able to tell that your book is not attractive enough and people are not clicking through on it. When you get a very low CTR, it's a pretty telltale sign to change the book cover because of the fact that people are not clicking through on your book on ads. And if they're not clicking through on your book with ads, then they're not clicking through on your book organically. So it's a clear-cut telltale sign to change that cover out and go opt in for a brand new one. So fantastic question, Julie. Now the next question comes from Hasi. Hasi says, I have found my book on Walmart, but I don't know how it got there. So 2 reasons your book ends up on Walmart. The first one is because you checked off expanded distribution when loading your book onto the KDP platform, which means you elect to allow Amazon to place your book for sale at other booksellers, as well as distribute it through libraries and just who knows where else, right? So you're giving Amazon permission to do this. So again, if you don't want your book to end up who knows where, then do not check this off. It's entirely up to you. There's another thing that happens with your books when they do end up like this, and I'll cover that more here in a question in a minute. The second way that your book ends up on Walmart, which you have no control over other than the thing that I suggested in the expanded distribution video, is when a drop shipper puts and lists your book for sale on Walmart, and when it sells on Walmart, they will buy it from the KDP platform on Amazon and ship that book to the customer who purchased it on Walmart. In other words, they are drop shipping your book from Amazon to Walmart, And there is no way that you can control this other than one tiny thing. Now, when it is being drop shipped, there are two things that you have to look for. First and foremost, the price will be significantly higher than what it is available for on Amazon. And second, it will be available through sale via a third-party seller. So look for it to say sold and shipped by a third party instead of saying sold and shipped through Walmart. Now, in order to combat this, there's really only one thing that you can do, and that is set up a Walmart seller account and then list your books on Walmart for sale through your seller account and then sell them just for a couple bucks higher than the third-party seller. You could end up breaking even or just making a slight bit of profit, but at least you're somewhat stopping a third party from getting sales for your books. And an example of this would be if you saw the expanded distribution video, there was one such book which sells regularly on Amazon for $6.97, but a third-party distributor was drop shipping it for $21.95. This is a perfect example of where you could jump on in there and sell it for $8.97 and thus possibly putting about 40 to 50 cents in your pocket for doing this tactic. But again, it might not be worth it to you. In some cases, it could be. All right, so the next question comes from Mark, and Mark says, "Hey Liz, here's the weird thing. I found my book on Walmart, but it's listed for $1 less than what's listed on Amazon. So at first glance, I thought expanded distribution was a great thing, but considering the downside, the royalties for those sales suck," right? And in this case, I discussed this in the video as well. What happens in the case where your book is available for sale for less on a third-party website? How can that be when your price is what it is on Amazon? And the reality is you have no control whether or not Amazon gives those third parties a lesser price for a certain period of time and recommends that they sell it for sale in order to stimulate external sales for your books. So that is the case in this. What I imagine that Walmart has it cheaper because Amazon gave them a lower price on your book to see how the market would react and hopefully stimulate some extra sales for Amazon on Walmart. Now, the thing that sucks about this is that if your book is just listed on Amazon, that's the only option a customer has. So the real question is, how good is your book? If your book is that good and somebody absolutely has to have it, then they pretty much are forced to buy it on Amazon. But expanded distribution could still give you additional sales because people are loyal to certain websites. And in this example, it might have been a grandma or grandpa who known the Walmart name for almost a century, and thus they want to buy from Walmart, and they will buy any book there that is related to unicorns. So you really have to think about it, and you really have to think if all of that is worth it. So what I would do is I would start out by looking and seeing where all my books are for sale on, and then figure out which books are really crushing it, and check and see if the sales seem to be happening on Walmart. And the way you do this is you sort for your books or your brand name by most popular for sale on Walmart, and that's how you figure out what your most popular books for sale are on Walmart. Now, you can't do this on Barnes & Nobles, and you can't do this on other third parties, but at least you know the two major sites, which are Amazon and Walmart. So hopefully that made sense. All right, Judy says, "After I saw your video about books being sold on Walmart, it made me curious. I went to Walmart and searched my name, and sure enough, someone is selling 5 or 6 of my bestsellers. They're selling them for the same price in Amazon, and it takes me to Walmart. Right now, it doesn't have all the details, and it does have them on Amazon. I'm wondering, maybe I checked expanded distribution." So yes, Judy, you were one of the people that brought this to my attention. You 100% in fact do have expanded distribution checked off. And I did read, I think you had a follow-up where you said you were deciding to turn that off. But again, it's something to think about for each and every one of your titles. All right, so the next question is from Shelby. Shelby says, "I'm working all the details when I have time. I think I'm missing something to throw to categories. How does one choose a category?" Are you talking about choosing the category when you're into the book, into the KDP website? I only see like 7 options there. I can only choose 2 and can never find the categories for the ones listed on Amazon. Does that make sense? All right, so a lot of things happening with categories, but understand the number one biggest thing happening with categories is that categories are constantly evolving, which means if a category is available today, it might not be available tomorrow. And that's for the simple fact that Amazon constantly changes them based on the data that they're collecting from their consumers. So don't worry if a category isn't available that once was available. What you want to be looking for in order to pick a category is you want to take a look at what the whole first page is listed under. So take a look primarily for the top 5 to 10 sellers and see where is the majority of these books listed. Try and list in the same category as they are so Amazon understands what your book is about. Now, if that category is not available, don't worry. Look for the more recent categories that the other bestsellers are on and list under that category. And that's how I would pick both categories. So I would look to see what the majority of sellers are selling under, and that's where I would sell it. But do not try a category hack where you're in a romance novel and you purposely put it on child substance abuse books just to get the new release badge. While that tactic will work for a short period of time, in the long run, that's going to hurt you because Amazon will classify you as being in that such category. And then you might pay a higher amount for PPC, and you might, in general, not be able to rank organically that well since you tried that. That's the case of what happened in the FBA world when people were abusing that. All right, next question comes from Mary. Mary asks, what's the advertising cost breakdown look like? Curious to know what the cost difference is between spending your funds on Amazon and off of Amazon. For that, Mary, it really depends on the niche. So it's a difficult question to answer. I can tell you that the cost breakdown on Amazon, again, is niche dependent. There are some niches that will be a lot more expensive than others, and there are some that are significantly less expensive. Now, for books, the external PPC is not as expensive as what it is on Amazon, but as time evolves, the price of that will get higher and higher. So the way that I try and figure out what I'm going to end up spending, I will not spend external PPC unless I'm really trying to push a book and I really want to create those add to carts over existing add to carts from third-party people. But I'd rather do that with surveys through micro workers and or Mechanical Turk. So I will usually not use external PPC until I have a rock star book and or a rock star product. I'll always start internally with Amazon PPC, and the budget will be whatever it is that I can afford. So that's a huge misunderstanding. A lot of people feel like they have to spend 30 cents per click or 20 cents per click, but that's insignificant. The only significant thing is what is the maximum amount you can afford to spend every single day on Amazon internal PPC. And once that starts selling, then you can start thinking about external PPC. So hopefully that answered it. I know you wanted a more specific cost breakdown, but I really can't tell you. Again, it's very niche dependent. So just to give you a clear-cut explanation of how drastic and dramatic this can be, if you're selling a book on supplements, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more versus if you're selling a book on children and substance abuse. So that's a really huge difference, but still, that's kind of to show you how it can dramatically be affected by which niche you're in. All right, so Jenny asks, is there a chance this method can make it look like you have a very low conversion rate and damage your chances of being ranked on the first page? This refers to my ranking on page 1 of Amazon video, which had 2 parts. And she's referring to the method of sending all sorts of traffic to a survey and then having them conduct all sorts of clicks through on your Amazon listing. And the answer to that is absolutely not. Again, I want you guys, if you get any single tactic out of this whole thing, that is to understand the simple fact that conversion rate is one big fat lie and a huge myth. Books with the higher conversion rate do not rank significantly higher than books with the lousy conversion rate. I've got people that I know that have the most horrible conversion rate you could imagine, and they're ranked number 1 on page 1 for things like supplements. So again, conversion rate is a huge illusion. Don't be worried about that, but just do make sure your book is first making sales so that at least Amazon knows it is selling. All right, and that's pretty much it. That was the last question that we had. I know it was short and sweet this time around, but some of those questions require detailed answers. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. And as usual, put questions and comments below. I always personally answer them, and I'll see you guys next time.